Oh, hello there. If you watch this video in full, take detailed notes, use my suggested essay structure and incorporate some of my 60 contextual quotations, you will get a higher mark. Stay tuned and watch Schofield on Shakespeare.
We're gonna build a palace and we'll be so proud. A palace where the roar of the crowd will tell the world our palace will last forever.
This video will follow the same structure as its predecessor, structuring A-star unseen critical appreciations for A-level women in literature. However, I would go much more quickly through each section, with the assumption being that you've already watched the first video. Mark scheme. AO1. Quality of your argument and writing and your understanding of the extract determines the level. Excellent argument and consistently detailed understanding of the extract should position you initially at least at the bottom of level 6. To get 27 and above, you also need detailed relevant insight into the context, AO3, and to get higher still, you need plenty of well-developed and detailed insight into language, form and structure, AO2. This video will reference an unseen passage from Edith Wharton's House of Mirth. I will show the extract on screen, but it may be easier if you perhaps obtain your own copy online. Go to Google, type in Read Edith Wharton House of Mirth Gutenberg. Click on Ctrl F on your keyboard and type in She Had Been Bored to find the start of the passage. The passage ends here, in her own case. Remember that to have any chance of getting a decent mark, you need to have really got the passage. You have 1 hour and 15 minutes to do this essay, which is a decent amount of time, especially in comparison to the drama paper when you're writing about Shakespeare, including Measure for Measure. So I would spend at least 10 to 15 minutes reading the extract through, annotating and thinking. Press pause to do this now. The different sections of the extract will be shown at 5-second intervals. A reminder about my essay structure. In the introduction, confirm to the examiner that you have got the essence of the extract. Summarize it and relate one of the ideas to themes in women in literature. Post-introduction, start the main paragraph with a specific point about one aspect of the extracts. Next, an embedded relevant quotation or quotations. Next, exploration of the quotation or quotations. Mid-paragraph, after exploring the quotation, shift to making a relevant contextual point. Make sure that it's integrated within your argument. You then return to the extract and develop your original point or give insight from a different perspective. Then embed another quotation, before exploring the language of that quotation in detail. The final paragraph makes a final summative point and may end with a memorable final contextual quotation. Word count for the whole essay should be in the region of 1,100 words, 100 for the intro, 300 first main paragraph, 300 second main paragraph, 300 third main paragraph, and 100 conclusion. As in my previous video, I will shortly provide you with some writing frameworks aimed at helping you develop argument and structure each paragraph in a convincing way. However, you might prefer to annotate your extracts now and then write your own essay before continuing to watch and mull over this video. Press pause to make your mind up. Now have a look at a writing framework for the first main paragraph. I've given you the topic sentence. Why not have a go now at writing the rest of the paragraph using the coloured notes? Press pause if you would like to do this. Here's a writing framework for the second main paragraph. As before, I've given you the topic sentence. Would you like to have a go at writing the rest of the paragraph using the coloured notes? Why not? Press pause to do this now. And now the writing framework for the third main paragraph. Press pause if you'd like to use this to create your own A-star number. Here's my essay. In this passage, the narrator reveals Lily Bart's internal thought processes as she reflects that, in all likelihood, she would need to marry an incredibly boring man in order to sustain her comfortable lifestyle. She reflects with distaste on her friend's poverty and recognises that her status within her social group is becoming perilous. The imperative for women to marry well for social and financial reasons is a common theme in women in literature texts. At the time this novel was written, there were limited career opportunities for middle to upper class women who were generally expected to remain decorative within the domestic sphere. A striking feature of the passage is the extent to which Lily is horrified at the prospect of being married to Percy Gryce. She recalls an echo of his droning voice, having been bored by him all afternoon. The adjective droning suggests that she finds his voice monotonous and tedious, whilst the phrase also implies that there is nothing of any interest in what he says. Even though she is presumably alone at this point, the noun echo suggests that she feels haunted by his dreary conversation. Recollections of this are spinning around in her mind. Given the power imbalances between men and women up until the middle part of the 20th century, women over 30 were only given the vote in 1918, with women aged 21 to 30 only being allowed in 1928. Numerous women felt compelled to submit to boring marriages in order to ensure their social and financial survival. Notable examples in literature include Charlotte Lucas in Austen's Pride and Prejudice, who marries pompous ass Mr. Collins, only to sheepishly claim, "I'm not romantic, you know. I never was. I ask only a comfortable home." Lily Bart is particularly haunted by the permanence of marriage. She has to continue trying to court and charm this hideous man, and all on the bare chance that he might ultimately decide to do her the honour of boring her for life. On the one hand, this phrase highlights the relative impotence of the courting female. From her perspective, whether or not the man chooses to propose may be largely down to luck or chance. However, it is also notable that the narrator alters the usual phrasing used in a marriage proposal. We would expect the phrase to be "do her the honour of becoming his wife." This cynical subversion emphasises the joylessness of many marriages and confirms female subservience. The fact that they feel compelled to marry someone who doesn't interest them in any way highlights the brutal injustices implicit within legal and social frameworks of the time. The narrator's comparison of her bedroom with her poor friend's home emphasises to her the importance of securing her own financial future. On the one hand, her bedroom has softly shaded lights, silken bedspread, little embroidered slippers. On the other hand, she perceives Gertie Farish's cramped flat as having cheap conveniences and hideous wallpapers. In Lily Bart's bedroom, the adjectives indicate luxury and ease. A silken bedspread would be wonderfully velvety, soft and comfortable, whilst the embroidered slippers would be pretty, with pleasing additional ornamental patterns. Note also the sibilance which pervades the descriptive phrases, perhaps highlighting the dangerously seductive nature of such material items. In contrast, Lily cannot bring herself to imagine the depressing, ugly detail of Gertie's flat, instead referring more generally to cheap conveniences, inexpensive items which are of solely practical use rather than beautiful and luxurious. In many ways, Lily seems to fit the cliché of the 19th century female, someone overwhelmingly defined by their love and need for material possessions within the domestic sphere. Such dependence may seem rather shallow to the modern reader, but given the woeful lack of opportunities for women outside the domestic sphere, it is unsurprising that Lily takes such comfort and enjoyment in the flowers and delicate clothing within her bedroom. That said, it does seem as though she now depends unhealthily on an expensive setting for her happiness. Her whole being dilated in an atmosphere of luxury. It was the background she required. The verb dilated gives us a sense of her body physically pulsing and becoming animated within luxurious settings. And it is notable that this isn't something she likes or desires, but required. It is essential to her existence and sense of self. Towards the end of the extract, we are given a brief insight into the subordinate position that some women can take in relation to men in their lives. We learn that Ned Silverton had been involved in expenses from which he had been more than once rescued by harassed maiden sisters, who treasured the sonnets and went without sugar in their tea to keep their darling afloat. Ned has clearly joined an expensive social circle and hopes to win the heart and finances of a striking divorcee, Mrs. Fisher. However, like Lily, he struggles to cope with the financial pressures, hence his need to be rescued by his sisters. Yet it is clear that such sisters are poor themselves, as confirmed by the adjective harassed, suggesting that they feel stressed and anxious about their difficulties juggling their financial commitments, and the fact they need to cut out basics such as sugar from their daily diet. Put simply, these women appear to be sacrificing their own happiness for their artistic brother, and in doing so are living up to conventional suggestions that women should not just be subordinate to men, but morally greater. John Ruskin wrote about the duties and roles of men and women in his classic 19th century work Sesame and Lilies. In one section, he claimed that women must be enduringly, incorruptibly good, instinctively, infallibly wise. Wise not for self-development, but for self-renunciation. Silverton's maiden sisters appear to fit this description perfectly in renouncing their own happiness for the sake of their darling. Yet Wharton shows us that this may not even result in longer-term happiness for the charming sonnet writer. His eyes moved from amusement to anxiety as he passed under the spell of the terrible god of chance. In this respect, men can also find themselves trapped by social systems in which the financially secure can toy with the financially insecure to their heart's content. This extract shows Lily Bart teetering on the edge of catastrophe. She can only just maintain her position within this wealthy circle and is beginning to chafe at the obligations it imposed. The verb shows that Lily is beginning to feel, metaphorically, slightly sore at the pressures involved in maintaining this life of ease. She knows that she must marry, but rather like the narrator in The Bloody Chamber, she also knows that if she does, henceforth she will always be lonely, at least in relation to her bore of a husband. Some reflections. A reminder that in the introduction you should show you've grasped the key ideas of the extract and related one of them to a key women in literature theme. Here I reference the paucity of career opportunities for middle to upper class women, thus making a prudent marriage all the more crucial. Make sure that you choose interesting quotations which lend themselves to detailed analysis, as I do here when I explore an echo of Percy's droning voice. Make sure that the context is directly relevant to what you are saying. Don't just regurgitate something half relevant. My contextual point here relates to the power imbalances between men and women, which I flesh out by pointing out the dates at which women were given the vote, which therefore increases exponentially the likelihood of women needing to marry a crushing bore in order to ensure their social and financial survival. Note how condensed and detailed the opening point of a paragraph can be, which, within my suggested structure, focuses sharply on a key aspect of the extract. Rather than just saying that the narrator compares Lily's setting with Gertie Farish's, I say this and talk about the effects of this. It emphasises the importance of securing her own financial future. Earlier in the essay, I referenced a women in literature novel, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. But remember that you can also reference non-fiction texts, and there's plenty of fascinating material within John Ruskin's Sesame and Lilies. Look it up. As with any contextual reference, it needs to be relevant, and here it gives insight into the extraordinary to the modern reader selflessness of Ned Silverton's maiden sisters. They were just doing what they were told by wise men. The conclusion needs to tie things up, and as stated in my previous video, I rather like a dramatic contextual quotation from another women in literature text to tie things up.
If you haven't yet watched my video on 60 contextual quotations or my first video on structuring argument for unseen women in literature, for God's sake, watch it now. Follow my advice, get higher grades, and keep watching Schofield on Shakespeare.